hurricane does come through.
Is it time to rethink how we categorize a hurricane's strength?
Why are we using a scale that only accounts for like 10% of fatalities?
Extreme drought leads to new water restrictions, while some California reservoirs are nearly full. And what's being done to save puffins in the Pacific Northwest?
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. The plains are once again facing a threat for some severe weather today. Now, that greatest concern is Iowa, where the Storm Prediction Center has issued that level 3 out of 5. That's enhanced risk for damaging wind gusts and large hail. A level 2 risk extends from southwest Wisconsin to northern Texas Panhandle. That threat continues for the region all weekend. Tomorrow it's around Nebraska and Iowa, and then by Sunday, the area widens to include Minneapolis and Oklahoma City, along with the risk for some tornadoes. Multiple wildfires are burning this morning in the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles, as well as eastern New Mexico. The flames prompted road closures and mandatory evacuations, although they have been lifted. One fire destroyed a railroad in Texas, the largest wildfire, and had already burned 14,000 acres as of last night, too. The chances of a super El Nino forming in the Pacific this summer are growing. NOAA says now it's an 82% chance it happens by July, a 96% chance it lasts through the winter. El Nino is the climate cycle when water in the equatorial Pacific warms, impacting weather patterns around the globe. It typically means more hurricanes in the Pacific, but less hurricanes in the Atlantic. Southern states historically see a cooler, wetter winter. From northern states also experience a warmer winter. But even if there are fewer hurricanes this year, it only takes one to bring destruction and devastation to coastal communities. So that's why people are preparing now, and that's including power companies. Meteorologist Lauren Oleski is in West Palm Beach with more.
Our annual storm drill helps us put our tools and processes to the test.
Every year, FPL holds a week-long hurricane drill. This allows them to better respond to power outages when a real storm happens and test out new technology. It's a major collaboration among all their teams.
This is really a central nervous system for the company, for all of our teams involved in a response, from restoration to critical infrastructure teams to logistics.
This is the FPL Mobile Command Center. This is one of 4 units that they have. They can deploy them anywhere across the state of Florida in the event that a hurricane does come through. And this drill is to benefit all of us, the residents of South Florida who rely on FPL to turn the lights back on when a hurricane hits. But they've also spent years hardening equipment so that the grid can withstand a storm in the first place. And that began after the 2005 hurricane season.
So we kicked off something that we called the Storm Secure program. Fast forward to today, 20 years we've been doing that program. 85% of our feeder system, that major circuits, are hardened. We've got 97% of our transmission grid that is either concrete or steel, so we've eliminated all wood from our service territory.
They've also placed many power lines underground. The list goes on. No grid is 100% stormproof, but FPL does everything they can to make sure that we're ready for hurricane season.
We prepare for storms year-round. We ensure that our grid is stronger, smarter, more resilient, and we're continuing to make those investments.
There are new questions this year about whether the current hurricane rating scale should be changed. We'll take a closer look coming up in about 9 minutes at that. All of North Carolina is in a drought. The western half is under extreme drought, while the second highest category starting today. That's why residents and businesses in one town will have to tighten up on how much water they use. Shelley Garzon has more.
They put us in stage 1 at the end of April, and already it's not the end of May, and they're already putting us in stage 2.
Dry conditions continue across western North Carolina, and cities like Marion are feeling those impacts. The city announced they'll be implementing stage 2 water shortage restrictions. This comes less than a month after they issued a stage 1 water advisory due to the ongoing drought. Local businesses say they worry what this pattern could mean.
I'm concerned that eventually we might have to go to, paper plates, paper cups, silverware not to be washed, try to condense, if it continues.
Under stage 2, water restrictions will include watering lawns or gardens and golf courses. Washing cars, filling residential pools, and serving water in a restaurant except upon request will also be prohibited.
We check the bathrooms often to make sure people have turned the water off because we have found from time to time people leave them running.
Local tattoo shops say to conserve water, their daily operations could look different.
We would definitely be reduced to using distilled water for everything, which would become harder if everyone's, buying it out. So that would definitely make things a little bit more difficult.
It's a much different story in Northern California, where 2 of the largest reservoirs are nearly full. But there's a word of caution as well. Mike Mangas has more.
Shasta and Trinity Lakes are both at near capacity. They're close geographically in the state, but they get most of their water differently.
One of the things about Shasta is we're 90% rain-filled. So not having a lot of snow here in Shasta County didn't really affect the lake levels coming up as much. That being said, throughout California, we had a snow drought, and that is a concern. Even over in Trinity County, where that lake tends to be filled more from the snow, we're actually at 90% full this year. So we're really excited where we're at there. But again, Trinity's as full as it's going to be this season because we've already melted all the snow.
All that water is ready to be used downstream in the Sacramento River for communities, agriculture, and keeping it cold enough for salmon.
Starting the summer with a really full Shasta Reservoir is just fantastic. That being said, with the amount of snow we didn't get this year, we may have to draw down the lake lower than normal just because we need to fulfill those downstream needs.
But Michael says, think of it like a bank account. You can't keep spending or you'll end up in debt.
Well, thinking of what the purpose of Shasta Dam is almost like a bank account, right? We're storing the water when it's falling to when we need it most when it's not. So like any bank account, if you draw down your funds, you always have to replenish them before the next year so you can go on vacation again.
A new study shows the Earth is getting drier despite increased rainfall. Now, the reason is that precipitation often comes from large storms. The excess rain surpasses what soil can actually absorb, and that leads to increased runoff. The research also highlights long dry spells between such storms. Now, puffins are the beloved seabirds with orange peaks, and right now the Pacific species are flocking to the Oregon coast for breeding season. But their numbers are declining as Elliott reports. Local groups are hoping to reverse that trend before it's too late.
The tufted puffin in Oregon has declined from an estimated about 5,000 birds back in the late 1980s, early 1990s to the most recent survey was in 2021, and it was about 550 birds.
Joe Liebezeit, the statewide conservation director for Bird Alliance of Oregon, says the organization has been trying to help the tufted puffin species since the early 1900s. But the fight to conserve the seabirds is far from over.
There has been years in the past decade or 15 years of really warmer temperatures in our ocean, surface water temperatures. And what that does is it makes all the small little fish, the forage fish like sardines and anchovies, they kind of leave town. They don't reproduce, or they move out of the area when it's really warm temperature.
Jenny Goldie, the communication coordinator for the Haystack Rock Awareness Program, says the organization has noticed the decline in puffin populations at Cannon Beach.
Last year was probably a year that we noticed a big change, and a lot of it can be due to several factors.
And that one reason for the decline could be from other birds.
The eagle presence has become quite marked in our area now, and the eagles are trying to fight for territory, so they're sitting on Haystack Rock, and they go after the adult birds.
Or human-caused factors, like drones.
We've had people last year that were taking green lasers and aiming them at the burrows at night, which disturbed all the birds. Drone usage. Unfortunately, birds will look at a drone as being a predator because they don't understand what that is, and it's a threat, and they will abandon their nests.
And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll look at why some scientists and meteorologists think we should change the way we measure hurricane strength.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. We're starting to see some improvement in the Northeast today. Low pressure is slowly spinning down and pulling away and weakening as we go through the afternoon. This is 2:30. There probably will be some spot showers out there during the second part of the day, but the trend will be for clearing. That will set the stage for what looks to be a nice Saturday. Most towns will warm well into the 70s. Notice some showers, maybe a rumble of thunder there in New York. For late Saturday and Saturday night, we're back in the 70s on Sunday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Looking like it'll stay mostly dry this weekend. Just a stray shower or two back to the west going into late Saturday or Sunday. But things are staying mostly dry throughout the weekend. Warming up significantly. Low 60s to low 70s going into your Friday afternoon. We'll see the warmer air really pushing in. Saturday looks like we'll be looking about 10 degrees warmer. Upper 70s to the 80s.
I'm meteorologist Lauren Oleski with a look at your forecast for Friday morning across the southeast. Temperatures falling into the 50s for a good portion of the region, but a little bit warmer down in Florida, mid-70s in southeast Florida there. Plenty of sun to go across the southeast for the start of Friday into the afternoon. Temperatures in the upper 70s, but in the upper 80s across Florida with a few stray showers, but most of the southeast does remain dry for Friday and as we head into the weekend.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A look at the weekend review. Stormy weather brought down some trees in Austin and San Antonio Sunday night. And near the California-Nevada border, poppies were out at Topaz Lake. Now to St. John, U.S. Virgin Islands, double the pleasure with a vibrant rainbow and a faint second one just above.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Hurricanes are measured using what's called the Saffir-Simpson scale, but as the climate changes and hurricanes become more powerful, some say it's time to change the way we measure the strength of hurricanes. So meteorologist Emily Gracie has more with that.
When a hurricane is approaching, most people look at one number, the category. But some scientists say that number may be giving people the wrong idea about the real danger. The Saffir-Simpson scale ranks hurricanes from 1 to 5 based only on wind speed, even though wind isn't what causes most deaths.
So why are we using a scale that only accounts for like 10% of fatalities?
University of South Florida researcher Dr. Jennifer Collins studies how people respond to hurricane risk and says too many people treat the category as the full picture. That can lead to dangerous decisions, especially when a storm's category doesn't match its impacts. She points to Hurricane Florence. It weakened from a Category 4 to a Category 1 before making landfall in the Carolinas. But the flooding it brought was devastating.
With our scale, we would have actually called that a Cat 5 on landfall, not a Cat 1.
Collins is proposing a new approach, an enhanced hurricane scale that factors in multiple hazards at once.
So our scale takes into account wind, storm surge, and rainfall, the main hazards from the hurricane.
Instead of focusing on a single number tied only to wind, her model combines those threats into one overall category, or breaks them out individually to give people a clearer picture of what's coming.
So we can have individual categories, or we can have a combined category for the hurricanes.
She says it's designed to work in real time.
As soon as those forecasts are out on storm surge, on rainfall and wind, we're able to put it into our scale.
But not everyone is convinced a new scale is the solution. NOAA social scientist Dr. Kim Cloko-McLean says the challenge goes beyond any single number.
Hurricanes are one of the more difficult ones to communicate well, and it's because they are multi-hazard.
People don't just need to know a storm is dangerous, they need to understand what it means for them.
So it's not just enough to know a hurricane could be bad, but they know that they're susceptible. That really hits home when they really understand that it could be them.
Inside the National Hurricane Center, there's even more skepticism about relying on scales at all.
Are we putting too much emphasis on scales?
Yes. Yes.
Deputy Director Jamie Rome says scales made sense decades ago when there were fewer ways to communicate risk.
You didn't have all these modern visualization tools. You didn't have AI. Communicating the impact of a storm was exceedingly difficult. So scales worked. They were simple, they were easy to transmit.
But today, people have access to far more detailed local information.
Two-dimensional analysis of the wind, the ability to zoom in and see what the impacts might be in your community. A scale throws all of that information out the door.
So while the debate continues over whether the scale itself needs to change, experts on all sides agree on one thing. Understanding the full risk, not just the category, is essential when a storm is on the way.
For areas in California, invasive golden mussels are no longer a distant threat. Officials say the invasive species has already spread into the water systems that communities depend on every day.
This is no longer a theoretical concern or something happening elsewhere. The infestation is here in systems that our communities, farms, and industries rely on every single day.
On Tuesday, the Kern County Board of Supervisors met to discuss a growing problem, golden mussels.
They attach to and clog infrastructure, which can reduce water conveyance capacity, damage equipment, and drive up maintenance costs.
According to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, these mussels' economic impacts range include costly repairs and maintenance, reduced water flow affecting food production, water delivery to homes, and flood control. To make matters worse, Kern County is uniquely impacted by golden mussels.
Our residents and agricultural economy and our energy sector depend heavily on reliable water deliveries that flow through state and federal systems.
Public commenters emphasize the hazards that these mussels bring.
If left unchecked, the infestation will effectively choke our water delivery systems, leading to a catastrophic equipment failure and leaving thousands of acres without the water they need to survive.
Ultimately, the Board of Supervisors approved a resolution to send a letter to Governor Gavin Newsom urging him to declare a statewide emergency over the spread of golden mussels. Officials say that the move could help unlock additional state and federal resources to combat the invasive species.
If he does that, that will go a long way in getting the federal government on board and then having those resources start to flow into California.
Spring can offer up some picture-perfect weather, and meteorologist Chicago Windler from our sister station in Austin, Texas, went on a nature photography hike to learn how and when to get the best shots.
Whether you're shooting with a fancy camera like this or just your phone, nature photography can be so much fun. But sometimes the weather gets in the way. I went to an expert to get some tips on how to deal with it.
Let's go, everybody.
Richard Gaines is a professional photographer and a nature lover. He combines both as a volunteer hike leader at Balcones Canyonlands National Wildlife Refuge.
I think it gives you a different perspective on the world.
He's captured everything from sports to music to Texas barbecue through his lens, but this place is something special.
I like to document nature, especially out here at Balcones Canyonland.
He's not alone. This fully booked photography hike is proof.
If I'm going too fast, just let me know.
I definitely love the fact that you're out with people that everyone is enjoying taking photos, and so we all have the same interest. And so if you stop to take a photo, people aren't going, would you hurry up?
Aside from the wind, you might think this was an ideal day for photography, but full sunshine means harsh lighting and big shadows.
It's all about lighting. It's all about the contrast. Lots of times a cloudy day will be better than a sunny day. You want to catch the light in the morning or in the afternoon because of the slant of the light.
That's when the light is warmer and softer.
Late afternoon is probably the best golden hour because you've got you could have anything from the clouds, the reflections from the clouds, to the pollen in the air.
And some might think a rainy day is a wash for photos.
If you get a short spring rain and you can find dew on a leaf, you can take a wonderful photo like that.
Our 4-mile hike was sunny, but no one seemed to mind.
You find an area where there's some shade and you can still create that beautiful shot.
As for equipment,
this is a Nikon, and it's a really good camera. This is my workhorse right here.
Okay, So this is my workhorse right here.
Right, and I've got one of those too.
No matter the camera, the right lighting and composition can create fantastic photos, whatever the weather.
Please watch your step here.
At Balcones Canyonlands near Austin, Texas, I'm Chicago Windler for the National Weather Desk.
Yeah, some great scenery there. Also some great scenery here. We saw over Bryce Canyon National Park as we head to break.
Well, a very good Friday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. A few scattered showers across the Midwest for the day today, kind of moving their way closer to the Ohio Valley as we get into the day tomorrow. And we'll see a few thunderstorms starting to develop as the heat starts to build. It's going to be building over the next several days across a lot of the Midwest. And you'll see here on Sunday, got a lot of 80s across the south and 60s to the north where there's going to be more rain.
Well, a good Friday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Chris Suchan. Look at our forecast today across the region, starting off with 60s and 70s with patchy clouds through the afternoon. There's a chance to see a couple of showers or a thunderstorm from Abilene near Dallas-Fort Worth into Oklahoma. Temperatures a little bit more humid in the 80s to low 90s. Notice the weekend starts off pretty decent, dry weather for your outdoor plans, but it is heating up. Highs in the 80s, well into the 90s across the region.
Well, hi there and a happy Friday to you, everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. TGIF in California back to 70 in the city by the Bay today versus 100 in Las Vegas this weekend. We're just barely in a cracked 50 in Seattle. That is way below average. It's because of a big disturbance rolling in, bringing some snow to the Cascade Passes in Washington. Meanwhile, higher fire danger goes on from California to the Four Corners. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Firefighters in California are holding large-scale training exercises to help crews prepare for the wildfire season. Emma Underwood has more.
CAL FIRE's annual readiness drill is meant to put crews through some of the toughest conditions they could face on the fire line. Firefighters are being tested on tool and equipment readiness, fire shelter deployment, and a 3.3-mile hike they had to complete within a 60-minute time limit.
If you do not pass, you will be training until you do.
Crews are scored as a group, with captains expected to keep firefighters moving at a safe pace, not too fast and not too slow. The goal is to make sure they can hike into tough terrain, then still have enough energy to fight the fires.
It's important that we're ensuring our firefighters are ready for this summer. That's the big takeaway.
Noel says crews spend about 2 months preparing for this drill, training on wildland fire attacks, their physical fitness diet, tool spacing, and how to watch for overhead hazards.
On the fire line is not the time to be figuring out our problems. We need to know before we got there.
For crews that pass, the drill helps clear the way for them to operate as a Type 1 crew and respond outside their county when needed.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm meteorologist Jordan Evans. Make it a great Friday and a great weekend. We'll see you right back here on Monday.